because when you're in the beginning, cash flow is the most important thing. And for the reasons we talked about before, like you want to put that toward marketing, you want to put that toward anything else, an influencer campaign, you want to put it toward shipping to your customer, you want to put it toward who knows what.
And learning, you might get some learnings that make you want to make some tweaks, make some tweaks, make some changes. And if you're all in, there's no changes you can make at that point. You got to just make it work.
Do you have a brilliant product idea but don't know where to start to get it made? Or are you looking to level up your product but afraid to take it overseas?
If so, you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Jackie.
And I'm Erin. And we are
the Sourcing Gals,
your trusted guides to everything you need to know about sourcing, manufacturing, and scaling your product overseas. Whether you are just starting out or you've been making your own product for a while, we are here to help women source products overseas without the overwhelm.
In each episode, we'll share insider tips, actionable strategies, and inspiring stories to help you source more effectively, save time, and boost your profits. Duh! We know how hard it can be to juggle the ins and outs of product development, but don't worry, we've got your back.
So grab a cup of coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into how you can grow your business,
make more money,
and turn your products into profit. Welcome to
the Sourcing Gals. Now let's get started. High five.
Hi.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of
the Sourcing Gals.
Okay, so today we are going to get into a little bit of the myths, mindset shifts, and lessons that we've learned as product-based founders. And so what we wish maybe more people knew, and some of our lessons to help save you all time, effort, money, energy.
Because we have double lessons. Because we came from a corporate environment.
Yes.
And we also did it ourselves. So we've really been on both sides of the table there.
100%. So I think we have a lot of learnings all around that we're just here to bestow upon you listeners today.
Yes.
And hopefully you find one nugget within that maybe makes you think differently about your next steps. So here we go. Let's say we're going to kind of turn back the clock and say, if I could turn back time. I love that song. So we're going to go through lessons we've learned. But before that, let's talk about some things that we hear a lot from other product-based founders. The idea that if I make a great product, it will just sell.
That was my lesson.
That was my lesson too.
And yes, that's a hard one because you do think in your gut, you're like, if this is great, of course, everyone's going to think it's great. And it can be great. Your idea can be great. It still needs some help. It still needs some push.
Yeah.
To be a household brand, to sell lots of units. Only having a great product's not going to get you all the way there.
Yeah. And I remember it's so funny when I specifically set my whole, I wouldn't even call it a business plan because it really wasn't that, but just my go-to-market strategy was influencers, all organic, like people will find out about my product authentically and organically on the Instagram. And it's just like laughable now because I'm not saying you can't do it. Wow. It would give me like 5 to 10 years maybe. And I can do it that way. And yes, you can get lucky and have a viral moment and things like that. But there's so much more and so much more budget that now I have to allow for with my own product-based business. And to the point where the marketing budget is definitely outpacing my sales right now. And it's just what I'm willing to put into it to keep the momentum going. But
finding that sweet spot is something that brands of all sizes deal with. So I think that on one end, we want to say that's something that we both didn't do properly.
Correct.
But I also think that's something that's a learning curve for everyone.
100%.
You just have to know going in that like, this is not going to just come out of the gate and be great. It's going to be a push and pull of learning no matter your stage in this business.
Yeah, 100%. And I think us both coming from big corporate backgrounds where they had brick and mortar stores. And so building an e-commerce presence was like, well, duh, it's just wasn't something that we were on the side of building.
Well, not only that, but I will say our particular corporate world that we met at, they also didn't believe in marketing for a long time.
Oh yeah, that was really funny. You're right. Yeah.
For a long time, they did not believe they had to market.
Yeah.
They believed word of mouth and putting your logo on a tee was all you needed.
Yep. And it worked for a while.
And, hot guys on bags, it worked for a while.
Yeah.
But then it didn't anymore because of all the things we've talked about in episodes leading up to now. The threshold for getting into this world has gotten so low, or I would just say the bar for this getting into this has gotten so low that anyone can join in.
Yeah.
And when that's the case, like, you really need to hit that marketing.
Yeah. Yep. So I definitely think the product has to be able to stand on its own. However, you need a distribution channel to sell it as well.
Absolutely.
So if you have to build one, if you have to go find one, if you implant your product into an already existing, market. I think right now, when I think about the sourcing gals and our go-to-market strategy, although it's different, right? It's not a product-based thing. It's our product-based, right? It's a service-based business. But we've gotten so much smarter about it. We've started marketing ourselves before we even had a course to launch. We have also made great partnerships with other product-based companies or supportive service-based companies within, right, that support product-based founders. And so we're now getting offered to enter into their networks and basically promote our services within their existing platforms because it's additive to them, right?
I think that's something that's really used to not be done, is these cross-brand collaborations, but now it's so common. And I honestly think that Target kind of shepherded that in when they started, 15 years ago with these designer collabs.
Yes.
That now it's kind of the cool thing to do is get two cool brands to collab together on an event. If it can't be a product, an event, or even a podcast, or even a social campaign, or what have you, that the new idea is that your network and who you engage with and reaching out to multiple people lifts, raising tide rates. What did they say?
Yeah.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Lifts all boats. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think even as a new founder, there are businesses out there who could be interested in a collab, maybe sooner than you think you'd even be ready for, but they're looking for the new and up and coming. So if you find these adjacent where it's not, one's not going to cannibalize the other, but you're in these adjacent worlds, whether that is an influencer collab, whether that is, two product companies where 1 + 1 = 10 to their customers. So just something to think about, that cross collaboration where we're talking about it for sourcing gals can definitely also happen with product-based businesses, even when you're at still somewhat of a young infancy phase.
Absolutely. So put some effort into thinking about how you're going to get your product out there. That is something that we see other people do, we ourselves have done, and we are here to tell you we've learned the lesson. Another myth that we hear often is that factories will guide me through everything I need to know to make my product. And while a lot of factory owners and or agents are very helpful, they are not a stand-in for what you want your product to be.
Correct.
If you do not know what the details are, how you want to sell it, what you want the price point to be, what you want the materials to be, like, they can't make those decisions for you. So while they can help you and guide you, they can't make decisions for you.
Correct. So I think having a clear point of view on what the outcome of your product is, being able to describe that to your factory when it comes down to the mechanical workings, the way in which it needs to be put together. Yes, a factory should help you with that all day.
100%.
Long, but you need to be able to cast your vision for the factory so they understand at the end of the day, how does it need to function, perform, operate, feel when you wear it, right? Like, they need to understand the use case for this product so that they can help guide you with the construction details, with the right materials, with what's going to be the most cost-effective way to bring this idea to life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's something that is usually a bit of a learning curve for folks that we start engaging with. And I think mostly it's people who come to us after they've already gone down the path. And then it's like, oh, wait, I don't know everything I need to know to actually be doing this. And I'm stuck.
Yeah, definitely.
But we are here to tell you that that is fairly common, but the way out is really just to know your product inside and out, and to really do the background research, the background investigative understanding of how you want your product to function in the market for your customers, and then you can lean on your vendors for the technical side.
We actually talk about it in our coursework. We call it the non-negotiables.
Right.
Like, what are your non-negotiables? Like, at the end of the day, your product has to have or has to do X, Y, Z. So if those are your non-negotiables, make sure your factory understands that. But the way in which you get there is where you can lean on the factory, right? How to execute that. And maybe there's a lot of other things around the non-negotiables that, again, might be negotiable, right? Maybe it doesn't need to have exactly this color or exactly this specific thing. I could save cost by absorbing here and bending here, but I need to make sure at the end of the day, the product is still hitting these 3 key benchmarks. So,
Sure.
Okay, one more myth we hear: cheaper production, higher profit.
This is a tough one because as your production costs get lower, your product tends to get cheaper, and then what you can sell it for gets lower. And so it's a catch-22 that I see people get stuck in, is that they lower quality and then they have to lower their costs, and then their margin still doesn't work out. So then they have to lower their quality again. So then they have to lower their costs. And really, you just need to kind of wipe the slate clean, relook at what the market can take, what you can pay, and what your ideal retail cost would be. And then this is the step that I think people miss: build in value in some way, some little something that sets you apart in the market.
Yeah.
So we made hair clips at one of my previous brands, and we're sitting on the sales floor next to Scrunchy and Goody and all these hair clip brands that sell millions of units and sell at $3 or so. And we have a $12 hair clip. And we were in that same spiral where if we made a cheaper hair clip to sell it for a cheaper amount, we had a cheaper product and we kept downward spiraling. So what we did instead was we ended up putting some really cool decorative elements on our hair clips, some inset stones, really made sure the quality of like the rounded edges were great, so that when you held it next to the other one, you were like, yes, this is different. It warrants more. Was our margin amazing? Was our production super cheap? No, it wasn't. But we could actually ask more money for it in the market.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a better play.
I love that. And I think there's, cheaper and then more cost effective. And I know that maybe sounds like the same thing, but I do think when you put on a production hat, there are sometimes multiple ways to skin a cat, like if you know what the end result you want it to look like, the inner makings, I'm going to garments here, the inner makings of a garment, the way you finish the seams on the inside of the t-shirt, whether you add a back neck tape that hides the stitching in the back versus not. I mean, there are things that can help reduce your cost without having to necessarily downgrade your fabric first, right? So there's maybe some cost-effective ways to get your product less affordable versus having to, sometimes you just have to cheapen things, literally, like take the quality down. So I think there's levers between when do you have to actually downgrade your quality because of the distribution channel you're trying to serve, right? And sometimes that happens. And lots of people have a good, better, best within their product assortment range. And they might even have the same item that they use. You'll notice, right? You go to a TJ Maxx and see a private label brand and the fabric feels different than what you pay at the e-commerce site.
Absolutely.
Like there's strategy behind that. So that's not always a bad thing, but also within the construction and again, the factories, the production side of things, sometimes there are some less customer facing opportunities, I'll say, where you can actually gain some efficiencies on cost or maybe even workmanship, how long it takes them to make something without necessarily having to cheapen the item itself. So just throwing that out there as well.
Right. So making sure that the lower you go with your factory costs, you don't have to dip too far down in your retail costs, and you can really keep that value there in some way.
Yep.
So you're offering really big value, even if your cost is low.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a kind of a rock and a hard place, and it can spiral you quickly if you don't like catch it and be like, okay, let's add some value to this that makes our product stand apart in the market.
Well, I think that actually segues really well into the next point we want to talk about, which was some mindset shifts that you can make. And the first one literally is think like a brand, not just a product, right?
Yeah.
So if you're doing all these things to just get that one product into, let's say, Target and have it, compete against the Goody, what does that mean for you as a brand though? Right. And that's where your brand that you were working with or for took a step back and said, wait a minute,
this isn't our brand.
This isn't our brand. Let's differentiate it to still make it be less costly to the customer than your direct to consumer website. So
Sure.
you obviously made some adjustments to the quality, the mechanisms, whatever it is, but you had to find a way to still have your brand be present in a sea of other.
Yes.
And in a big mass retailer, right? So when you're putting on your brand hat, you may make different decisions. Hopefully you do for the better of the brand. And it might be a hard one in the minute to say, this is an opportunity right now, but what does it mean long term?
Sure.
Right? You might get a one-hit wonder, but you're trying most likely to build a brand with longevity.
Right.
So it's making sure that you're not just thinking about what's immediately in front of you, but how does that one decision affect what could be the future of your business?
Another mindset shift that is hard when you're starting out a new brand, and I think it's kind of like a myth busters, is that you should buy like all your stuff. I think that the other day someone told us they were going to buy a couple thousand units of something, and we were like, why? Just buy a couple hundred.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the beginning, cash flow is the most important thing. And for the reasons we talked about before, like you want to put that toward marketing, you want to put that toward anything else, an influencer campaign, you want to put it toward shipping to your customer, you want to put it toward who knows what.
And learning, you might get some learnings that make you want to make some tweaks, make some tweaks, make some changes. And if you're all in, there's no changes you can make at that point. You got to just make it work.
Right.
And work at scale to give you the next chunk of money to invest the next update, right? The next adjustment. I mean, I have like perfect case in point of that, where it kind of goes back to not really planning enough for the marketing of my own business. I mean, I ended up cutting all of my fabric in my one silhouette that I thought was my hero product. And turns out a month after launch, holy shit, I had all these women coming to me saying, wait, we want this, this, and this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. Well, guess what? I didn't have any fabric. So I had to go buy more fabric because I knew the opportunity was there. And luckily that next time I decided to only cut a small portion of it, right? And learn. And so had I not been fully leveraged out in the beginning, man, I could have those couple of months where I was basically just like waiting, like would have been a whole different game. Right.
And that's where the relationship you had with your factory, now you don't cut all your fabric.
Yep.
Your factory will hold your bolts fabric and cut it into the silhouettes that you want for that order. But that's another thing that we want a lot of founders to know, is that the relationships with your factories are transactions, but don't treat them as transactional. Because when you are in a tough spot, when you do want to switch up how you're ordering, the cadence of your material orders, that relationship is going to be paramount to getting your goals.
Yeah. And that's again why I moved suppliers, because my old supplier didn't. And it wasn't that my old supplier didn't want to support my business. He did not have the model to do small and large quantity runs. Again, my thought was, we're going out of the gate. We're going to make this big. It's going to go gangbusters. I'm going to hit your MOQs, no issue. And then what I realized is, oh, my customer actually wants variety right now. I need to test more on my e-commerce site. And then I'll take my hero items and try to get those in big box retail. But I still need to have my testing grounds. I still need to have my e-commerce business, and I need more flexibility. And that vendor just couldn't do it. They just didn't have the sewing line set up the way, to be honest, to run that small of quantities. And so again, it wasn't necessarily a lack of them believing in me or what I wanted. It's just that they weren't going to be able to change their whole business model for my business, which I get. But my new supplier that I've actually worked with for years, he works with large volume customers and small startups. Like, that's his model. He wants to be able to support those that are getting off the ground and then also take the volume. And I'm sure for him, the volume pays the bills. The small startups are where the next opportunity could be, right? So smart on him. That's his business model. So, but it took me some time to get there.
Another way to not look at these things as transactional is to continue with development, follow up with your factory, not just like place an order and then ghost, but talk to them about when you intend to place the next thing.
Yeah.
Tell them how your sales are doing. Say, hey, things got off to a slow start, but we're getting some leverage with PR. We're probably going to be chatting about our next round of samples here in the next month or so.
Yep.
Like really just keeping them in the loop. That's something that I see a lot. People place an order, they go ghost for a month. They come
Yep.
back and they're like, new order.
Yeah.
And that factory is not going to turn into a long-term relationship or someone who's going to bend over backward for you if they only, you only think to clue them in that moment you need more.
I mean, these are business people. Factory owners but I send all my PR to my factories and they love seeing it. They love seeing when we're being featured or if we got a TV segment or something in a magazine or an upcoming purchase order. Like they get excited about that too. Like they want to know that their investment in you is hopefully going to pay off. So I love that call of keeping them in the loop or, hey, we haven't launched yet. We had XYZ happen, but it's coming. So just we'll let you know when the next movement is. So I think that's a great call to really build these relationships. And hopefully if you listen to our podcast frequently enough, you hear us talk up. I think that's like the number one, like secret sauce really to a lot of what makes good to great manufacturing is the relationship with your factory is just really important.
Right. You talked about some of your biggest lessons with your product. Other lessons from the trenches. I've talked about this in previous episodes, but my first brand that I did was a home decor brand. I did it right after leaving corporate and I left this like huge corporate role that I'd been in for nearly 10 years. And I only saw one part of the business and I knew that business like the back of my hand, but I didn't see the other sides. I didn't see the marketing. I didn't see the social media. I didn't see the e-commerce, nothing. So I put so much money toward my product and just thought, like we said in the start of the episode, just said, if it's great, it'll sell, and had no clue how to market my product. And I actually had a blog at the time that was pulling in like 1 million monthly views. It was not small, but that wasn't sufficient marketing for my brand. And that's something that I learned the hard way. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of inventory. So then when I went to go put money to marketing, I had spent it on the goods and gotten myself into a little bit of a pickle there, but ended up weaseling my way out of that. But anyway, it was a hard-earned lesson and it was just something that you don't know if you don't know. But that was a big issue. And then another lesson that I learned the hard way was shipping to the customer. I budgeted for shipping it from the vendor to me, but not for shipping it from me to the customer. And I didn't want to pass on shipping rates to the customer at that point in time. I wanted to just like free shipping because I thought it seemed so appealing. Yeah. And so that's what I wanted to do. And then it got to the point where it was not viable for me to offer free shipping anymore. And some of my products were so big and so delicate that shipping was $30 and $40 for one of the boxes. And I couldn't pass that on to them either. That was astronomical. So it was a tough situation to be in. I ended up moving out of some of my bigger and more delicate pieces for that reason. You learn the hard way.
Yeah, definitely. We were just talking with someone last week about who was wanting to offer free shipping. And I said, why? Like, well, the Amazons. I'm like, Amazon is Amazon, right? But other than that, you have a unique product that nobody else has in the market right now. If they have to pay an extra $5 to get it shipped because you're solving a major problem, they're going to do that.
I'll pay an extra $5 to get a dress that like caught my eye on Instagram ships. Like I'm just like, yeah, that looks great.
So I think the Amazon thing in people's head, yes, that is a thing. I also believe for most other, if you're an e-commerce shopper, that shipping is just part of the game unless you're buying like a really high threshold. So yeah, great learning.
Jackie, what would you say is like a small tweak, a small lesson that you've made in your business that's made a big difference? Like something that maybe you didn't realize from the onset, but wasn't a major thing, wasn't like overbuying a fabric for you or not thinking about $30 shipping for me, just more something that was like, oh, that was a surprise.
This is maybe not around manufacturing, but when you think about the marketing of your product-based business, I wasn't realizing how much time and energy it was taking up because I was slotting it in between everything else. So like now I batch my work so much better. So when I have like a day that I really got to focus on product development, like that's what I'm focusing on. And I'll now batch my work for my marketing and my social media. And one day I'll plan out the whole month with my marketing manager. And so small tweaks of like, I'm saving a ton of time because I'm making myself more efficient within my days. The work is still the same, but the amount of time and energy that it's using is a lot less, especially for someone where I'm not a marketing person, right? Like I'm a product person. So I just like want to work on my product all day long, but I have other parts of the business I need to run, right? I have other things I need to do. So for me, just a small tweak of like adjusting my calendar a bit to let me focus on, okay, today's going to be a heavy production day and I'm going to dive into my factories and make sure all my costing charts are updated and make sure, right, really get organized there. And then also the next day planning ahead to say, okay, now I need to have my mind shift. I need to think more brand. I need to think more long-term. So,
or I've called you before and you're like, today's packing and shipping day.
Yes, I have to stay. I got to get these orders done. Well, I think just siloing a little bit, especially for someone, like I said, my brain it knows where it wants to venture, but I have to get other things done sometimes, right? So I just think making that small adjustment lets me stay more focused on the task at hand and then not have it filter into like my week or even my month. It's like, okay, that's checked off the list. It's done. Now I can move back to the product piece, which is what I love to do.
Right. Right. I think for me, this is going to sound really silly, but I used to always use like my home printer to print like packing sheets and labels and things like that. And you know that when you need something right now, your home printer will always conspire against you.
This morning, I was having issues already. Yeah.
And so I bought like a tiny little thermal printer that just prints out labels and
so
only
nice.
prints out labels.
So cool.
It's so cool. And it like changed my life.
I get it.
I was like, this is so fast and easy.
Yep.
It's silly. Like, why did it take me how many years to decide to buy out, $80 thermal shipper?
Yeah.
Thermal printer.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was just a small change that made a huge difference. When you talk about batching, I could print out 10 labels in 30 seconds versus going to my printer, clicking on the button, then going back to my computer, then clicking on the button. And then here comes one out of the printer. I just couldn't I almost threw my printer in the trash can one day. I just marched to the store, bought that thermal printer, and I've never looked back.
And not to totally derail the convo, but there are so many things that each one of us just automatically do because it's the way we've always done it. And now, I'm not kidding, with ChatGPT, like it's interesting to throw your day in there. Say, here's how I'm doing this. Is there a more efficient way? And I bet it's going to come back with like 10 faster ways, unless you're like a mad operator, but that is not necessarily my forte. So just think about within your own business, are there some things, or even daily life, now I will input into chat some things I want to make for dinner and like let them make my grocery list, right? So it's just like small little tweaks and finding these little mini shifts that can kind of be like major unlocks as you're going through your day to day. So sorry, not to derail, but
no, but that you kind of actually reminded me of another one, like mindset shifts and lessons from the trenches is what we're calling this episode. But we've both had a big unlock fairly recently, which is offloading some of the work that just sucks our time dry to like a VA or someone else. And it's been really transformative.
Yeah. We'll definitely have a podcast here coming up about how we do that, because I think it deserves its own episode. But yes, I mean, asking for help, outsourcing, huge unlocks.
Because I think entrepreneurs always think, I'm going to do it all myself. And if it's hard, that means it's working. And that's not the case.
Exactly. And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
That's my big thing.
Exactly. So I think that's another just really big thing that we've both learned fairly recently, and something that's made a big impact on our business that we wish everyone knew.
So we're going to share it. We're going to have some bombs coming out, knowledge bombs about that.
Knowledge bombs. But all in all, there will be hiccups. There will be failures. Do not see them as like, don't lay on the ground and throw your arm over your face and say, this is the end for me.
Yeah. Don't shut down shop. This is just an opportunity, a learning, right? And now it's what you do next. So I think, again, I spent a whole career in manufacturing, and I'm changing my factory 1 year into business. It's like, really? What? It's like, yes. So because things weren't working and where the business is going, I have to pivot and I have to adjust and I have to be agile. So, and that's coming from someone who knows how to do this. And I'm still having to make these shifts and changes. So don't get overwhelmed. Know that when these obstacles arise, there's a reason, and it's better to work through it and find out things earlier than later.
That's why we say cash flow is important, because you will need to pivot.
Correct.
It's not if, it's a when. So keeping just like very agile and knowing that it is normal, I think is helpful.
Correct.
And then that adaptability will make you a better entrepreneur. It'll make you a better business leader. It'll make you a better product developer, designer. And I think the worst thing is just to, stick your heels in and say like, no, this is the only way it's going to work for me. And this is how I'm going to do it from now here on out. If you're not growing, you're, dying. Is that what they say?
Yeah, something like that.
I like to make up cliches. It's not that I like to make them up. It's that I don't know them.
Yes.
And so
but the in essence, it's there. I know what you're trying to say though. I get it. So it is. So hopefully you guys got a couple takeaways from today's episode. Feel free to leave us a comment, a like, a love in our social media platforms at The Sourcing Gals on Instagram. We're also on YouTube at The Sourcing Gals. You can listen to us on Spotify or Apple, as you probably are right now. So we appreciate all the listens and the downloads. So thank you so much for your support. And we are looking forward to our next episode on
The Sourcing Gals.